does freedom of expression have its limits? That's a debate that's been ramping up in the athletic world over the past couple of weeks. As you know, it all started when San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick took a knee during the national anthem to protest the treatment of people of color in America.
I'll continue to sit. I'm going to continue to stand with the people that are being oppressed. To me, this is something that has to change. And when there's significant change, and I feel like that flag represents what it's supposed to represent, and this country is representing people the way that it's supposed to, I'll stand.
Many other NFL athletes have joined the cause, including some of our New England Patriots. And last week, Worcester High School football player Michael Oppong joined in as well, taking a knee when the anthem played. He later tweeted his coaches and principals decided to suspend him from the next game as a result. The school quickly called the whole thing a misunderstanding and said the student was not suspended as he was within his rights to peacefully protest. But the reaction to it all has been mixed.
A lot of my classmates were proud of me because from what they said, I was very brave for what I did, for standing up for what I believe in.
I would definitely be standing.
I think that it was courageous of him to get up and do that.
Joining me for more on this debate are Peter Roby. Peter's the former Harvard University basketball coach. That was a while ago. And now the athletic director at Northeastern. Peter, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Jim.
And Chris Brown, a lawyer with Brown and Rosen and Orpheus Sports and Entertainment, representing dozens of athletes. He also teaches sports law at BC. Chris, it's great to see you too. Before we get into details, give me your general reaction to this whole spate of protests. What's your reaction to it, Peter?
Yeah, no, I'm appreciative of them and their courage. You know, I think it's important that people feel like if they have a voice, that they can contribute to the dialogue and get people to take a serious look at issues that they think are important. And, you know, athletes have been vilified over the years because they haven't been active and political or haven't been advocates to causes that people thought they should have been.
Like Michael Jordan.
Like Michael Jordan and others over the years. And so I think it's hard to have it both ways.
But you're an athletic director. Do you worry about team unity and these kind of things?
No.
Why not?
Because we're trying to talk to young people about being adults, about learning and educating and contributing to their education. This is about contributing to their education. We have a core value in the athletic department at Northeastern about the appreciation of difference. This is a perfect example of it.
Where are you on this, Chris?
Well, for me, it's a more of a personal issue. I definitely believe in everyone's right to express themselves. I believe the First Amendment right, freedom of speech. But for me, I don't necessarily believe it has to be done during the national anthem. Very personal reasons. You know, my son Javon is actually in the Army. My sister and her husband, who I've known since I was 8 years old, have been members of the Air Force. So for me, the national anthem just means something a
What
bit
happens
different.
when one of your clients calls you and says, you know, I'm really troubled by what happened in Ferguson. I'm troubled that it's been repeated time and time and time again. And I feel this is I'll be seen. It'll make a statement. What do you say? I mean, other than sharing your what do you say to him or her?
Well, again, that's for me personally. I think there are a lot of ways in which they can convey their disagreement with the treatment of various ethnic
But you
groups.
think this is the wrong forum?
I think this may be the wrong forum.
You know, you're a little bit of a historian here. I mean, you talk about protests. Forget those who didn't protest. Maybe one of the most famous protests 48 years ago in Mexico City.
Sure.
John Carlos and Tommy Smith obviously came in 1-2 in the 200 meter. Medals taken away, vilified in lots of
As Ali was.
places, as of course Muhammad Ali was.
Right.
How much have things changed? I know there's a debate going on about this.
Yeah.
How much has it changed in 48 years and since Ali, those sort of things?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that the way people have reacted to it has changed that much because he's catching a lot of hell from a lot of the people in the public about what he did, and he's probably lost some endorsements as a result of that.
We're talking about Kaepernick?
Yeah, as a result, like John Carlos and Tommy Smith did.
But he's an adult. He knew. I mean, he obviously knew. He's not he's a smart guy, actually.
And
he knows there's going to be some consequences.
And not only did he probably risk losing things, but he also is committed to donating $1 million to causes that are going to promote peace and understanding.
You know, I should have asked you before, if you were the principal of that school, forget the pro athlete. I'm going to get to the pros in a minute. What would you have done to that kid? They suspended him, and they didn't. You wouldn't have suspended him.
No, I wouldn't have suspended him at all.
Even though you don't like the vehicle for what he's going on.
Again, it's just personal for me in that regard. But the important issue is they have shined a light on something that is critical. And for me, that's more where I believe the debate should be
we
on.
may not even have seen that light if they had chosen not to shine it in that particular
Right.
venue.
Which is very true.
Which is the issue, is that we can't let the concern that we have for the way he's gone about protesting to get in the way of having a conversation about what he's protesting about.
Through the years, you've consulted teams with leagues and with that sort of stuff. There's no, while an individual has a right to free speech, forget the high school kid for a minute, a right to free speech, they don't have a right to be employed. And
Correct.
if the 49ers had decided to say, well, maybe it's a guaranteed contract, we're going to pay you, but you're fired. You can't be on this team anymore.
Yeah.
They can do that, correct?
Sure. I mean, as long as they have, I think there's an issue with the collective bargaining agreement. So, but they cut guys every day, and not all of those contracts are guaranteed. Most aren't.
So, you have a problem with that? If it turns out, I don't know who owns the 49ers these days, but
Yeah.
just pick them for a second.
Yeah.
They say this actually hurts our image. We're not selling as many shirts. We're not, we respect your right, or whatever they'd say.
This is the same team that had a video that they shot in the mayor's office or around the mayor's office about homosexuality and stereotypical behavior.
Picked the
so
49ers.
it's not the right
Let's
example.
let me pick another example. That nameless professional team that has a cleaner record.
I think
and they say this is hurting. This is a business. It's hurting our business. We respect your right, whether they do or not. You can't be here. You're essentially damaging our product.
Yeah. Well, is it any different than some of the teams that have taken guys that have been accused of sexual assault and domestic violence, and they've just decided that either they're going to take the guy from another team because they think they can help his team? So, they're going to make business decisions, and they're going to have to deal with the consequences of those decisions. I'd be disappointed if a team did that in this instance. So here's a guy who's exercising his constitutional right to protest peacefully. He's not hurt anybody, and in juxtaposed to guys that are getting hired when they've abused women and broken the law, this guy who's protesting peacefully, that would be
Let's
hard
talk
to
about
swallow.
another guy who's a pretty famous athlete. He had a bloody sock once in a pretty important game that we all remember. He got suspended by ESPN. In part, one of his many posts was comparing Muslims and Nazis. Right. He was ultimately fired. This is obviously Kurt Schilling. When he retweeted this meme, and I think most of you have seen it, let him in to the restroom with your daughter, or else you're a narrow-minded, judgmental, unloving, racist bigot who needs to die. This is obviously during the public accommodation, transgender public accommodation bill here. Let's start with you, because you're the one that says we should respect their right to free speech.
Yeah.
If one of the current athletes said, I'm appalled by my rights, my kids' rights being violated, he says, whether it's true or not, by this transgender bill, would you be saying the same thing? We got to respect his rights?
Absolutely.
You would?
Yeah, I would, but I would try to educate him about the fact that HB2 bill has more in it than just the accommodation for bathrooms. It's about allowing people to discriminate based on sexual orientation, and that they're not allowing local municipalities to override the state's law with respect to that.
But if he were, this is actually about our state law, but you're talking about North Carolina, if he were on one of your Northeastern teams, fine?
Well, yeah, I mean, I might have a conversation with him about, think about.
But he can do it.
Of course, yeah.
How about you?
I share Peter's view in that regard. I would try to educate him, personally, about the real issues that he may think he has a controversial with. But
isn't that what we're there to do? We're in an institution of higher education. So just because we happen to be dealing with sports doesn't mean we're not interested in helping to educate.
Can athletes help change the world? You think they can?
Oh, no doubt. Oh, in a major way. I mean, the symbolism and what happens on the field of play is absolutely the example that we should try to promote for the rest of our country. Absolutely.
Peter, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Jim.
Chris, great
Always
to see
a
you as
pleasure.
well.
Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Good to
thanks
see
so
you.
much for your time. I appreciate it.